this whole company is not just about one person. It's just so important to allow your team to see how you handle certain situations. Like there will be issues with, say, a team or a client or a retailer, and I'll have my team in here. They might not be on camera, but they're in here and they're hearing how I'm dealing with it. How am I solving this problem? How am I responding to that client when they're hitting me with X, Y, and Z? I think it's really important to hone in on those skills and teach those skills so that your employees, whether they stay with you forever or whether they stay with you for another year or two, they then have that skill set that they can use at their next role. And I think it's important to really uphold that as a leader. Yes, I'm the CEO. Yes, it's my company, but it is ran by an entire team.
Welcome to the Marketing Factor podcast. I'm Austin Dandridge, the CEO of Cobble Hill, and today I'm joined by Whitney Bansin, the CEO, founder, and lead designer of The Wild Collective, who's transforming the sports fashion landscape. After 25 years in Las Vegas and leading beauty creative direction at Zappos, Whitney leveraged her UNLV business degree and experience running One Love Agency, a celebrity styling powerhouse, to revolutionize fan apparel. Recognizing that traditional sports merchandise lacked fashion appeal, she launched The Wild Collective, which rapidly earned official licenses across NHL, NBA, WNBA, MLB, MLS, and collegiate sports, bringing high fashion to fan gear and changing how sports enthusiasts express their team pride. Whitney, thank you so much for coming on the Marketing Factor.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to see what we talk about today.
Me too. I'm totally interested in the Wild Collective, and as I was looking through the site, I just noticed how much product you guys actually have.
Oh yeah.
I'm interested in your background too. So tell me a little bit about what you were doing at Zappos before you started the Wild Collective.
Yeah, so since I was 19, straight out of college, 19 years old, I started a hair and makeup styling firm. So we basically did television, commercials, we did a few movies. So my team would basically be hired to do all the hair, makeup, and styling for various productions in and around Las Vegas. And then after, doing that for about, I would say 7 years, I landed a contract with Zappos, which was based in Vegas, which is where we are. And I was heading up all the hair, makeup, and styling for Zappos. So anything you saw on Zappos was pretty much us. All the lifestyle images, all the e-commerce shots, every model picture, that was all us. That was all our team. And it was there that I really started to dive a little bit deeper into fashion and being around it. It really kind of inspired me to do something with it. I initially wanted to go to fashion school right out of college, but I knew that I needed to just focus on starting the company right out the gate and just go head first and try and build something right out of college rather than going back to school, since I had already had my business degree. So it was really a passion of mine to be an entrepreneur and start a company and see what I could do with it.
So are you from Las Vegas?
Not originally. I'm actually Canadian. So I was born and raised in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I lived there until I was 10 years old. And then my parents moved us to Las Vegas. My father is in the nightclub industry. So we ended up moving to Vegas and started a new life here. And I've been here ever since.
I've never been to Las Vegas, but I can only imagine how distracting it must be to work there. But it also seems incredibly exciting, and there's probably always some kind of new way to get inspired there.
Yeah, it's a really exciting city. I mean, everything comes to Vegas. Every major concert, everything that is happening in sports and music and culture happens in Vegas. So it's a really exciting city to be in. And it's even more exciting that I happen to fall down the pathway of sports, and Vegas has basically turned into like the sports mecca of the industry. And I think we're just really lucky that we're here and we're able to be a part of that.
So did you play sports growing up? Were you a collegiate athlete, or are you just a fan?
No, none of the above. I was actually on dance team, so I was a dancer. I danced in like high school, but that's really it. I went to UNLV, and that's where I met my husband. And when we were at UNLV, it was not the heyday. Like we were not there when UNLV was known for basketball, and they were, had a very large sports presence in the community. So we didn't really go to games much. It wasn't really a thing to do at the time. Luckily, UNLV has turned it around and they're actually, stepping it up in sports these days. And a lot of our friends and everyone's going to games, and it's a big deal because they've been winning and they built a really strong program there. So that's really cool to see as like an alumni. But growing up, no, sports was not in my DNA at all. So that's the more interesting part of all of this is, if you would have said to me 15 years ago, I would have a sports apparel brand and be licensed across every major sports league, I would have told you were lying. Like there's no, I would just I put all the money on the table and say there's no way that's happening.
Well, I mean, I think that's totally wild then. Like walk me through how you identified that gap in the female sports apparel market. Like were you observing data points? Or like what observations convinced you that this was more than just like a hunch you had?
Yeah, well, really what happened was the Vegas Golden Knights came to Vegas. It was a very big deal to have an NHL team here, and the city just really embraced this team, and everybody was going to games. Everyone was going to a game, going to a bar to watch a game, watching it at their house. Like it just became such a big part of the Las Vegas culture. So you had a lot of Las Vegas locals who never really had their sports team because we didn't have any major league sports here. So you weren't really tied to a football team unless maybe your family was tied to a certain team. Or if you grew up in a different city and moved here. Maybe you were a Green Bay Packers fan because you grew up in Green Bay, but now you live in Vegas. So a lot of the Vegas culture and the community didn't have their team, and Vegas Golden Knights became that team for so many people, and that's what really started and ignited this whole idea. Is all of my friends were going to games, and I was like, well, what are we wearing to these games? Like what does one wear to a hockey game? Because remember, we're in a city that we didn't really go to games like that because we didn't have that culture here. And I was immediately taken back that these were kind of the options. Like, this is it? Like, this is all that's being offered? So I would go into some of these stores that offered the sports apparel, the licensed product, and I was like, wait a second. This is it? And so that really, for me, allowed me to step outside of the box and say, okay, there's kind of something here. I don't really know how to go after it. I don't really know what the best process is, but let's start investigating on how I could turn this into an opportunity. And really from then it just snowballed.
Well, I would think that the sports licensing world is difficult to break into. Like, how did you approach those initial conversations with the leagues? And like, how did you position the Wild Collective at the time then?
Yeah, I think what made us so unique is that I was really going after an untapped market in the space, both the women's fashion side and the unisex men's side. So initially, the brand was intended to go after only women, but as I started to dive deeper into the product, the first 6 8 months of the brand, really like getting out there and doing meetings and so forth. I realized it really wasn't just the women's side that needed help. It was all of it needed help. The unisex, the men's, like what are they wearing to games? A lot of times you would see men wearing just a baseball cap or just a beanie because they are not like seeing what they would normally wear in their everyday apparel, lifestyle, fashion in sports. So they'd rather just wear like a white or black t-shirt and wear a hat and call it a day. So I realized there was the hole in both markets. And so that was really the goal there, is to challenge the leagues to say, hey, no one's really doing this. we have a lot of really great ideas. We'd love to come to the table and, present to you what we believe we can do to the industry and how we can grow your market share. And I must have been very convincing because I was able to pick up all of the licenses. And it was at a time where all the licensing directors, everyone I was speaking with, they were all females. So I was surrounding myself with a group of women who wanted to see change in the industry. And I think that really helped.
Absolutely. I mean, so you secure the licensing deals, then how do you, where do you go to design the product and then ultimately uh, produce the product?
Yeah, so I early on linked up with a really amazing designer out of California, and we literally it was him and I really building out what this was in the initial couple years of the business. We had a team in LA that was handling their production part and the sourcing, and Jason and I would handle the design and come up with new ideas. And he's very creative. So it allowed me to kind of like really spread my wings in terms of like what was possible. He, what's cool about him is he very easily can transition between lifestyle, streetwear, fashion. So he can give me a total streetwear piece, and 2 seconds later, he can give me a blinged out, crystal jacket that's like very feminine. And so him and I working together, we were able to kind of create this like secret sauce of these really unique silhouettes, these unique designs, and we found a lot of success early on.
You also do a lot of, I was noticing you do a lot of like collaborations. I saw you did one with like Free People, PacSun. You have a few new ones on the site now. That's like a really like fascinating choice, I think, for sports branding. How do you kind of evaluate those potential retail partners? And what's kind of your playbook for taking those partnerships and then making those collaborations successful?
Yeah. On the retail side, that's actually probably that's the most fun I get to have, really. Because it allows us to do things that we maybe couldn't do in other areas. So for instance, I can take a really cool uh piece that I could do for Free People, but I could never sell that in stadium. Like it wouldn't translate, right? So what we do with these retail accounts is we build out these curated collections that are specific to that retailer and that consumer. So what I'm selling into PacSun, that's designed exclusively for PacSun and their consumer base. So I'm not going to turn around and go sell that to someone else. So it allows us to have that very differentiated touch point in the marketplace and allows us the freedom and ability to do a lot of really cool, unique things that in most cases in sports, I wouldn't maybe have the opportunity to do.
So what did before the collaborations took place, like what was y- your go-to marketing approach? Like you're marketing to a demographic that kind of traditional sports brands have historically overlooked, right? How do you approach, your initial marketing, and then how is that messaging different from what other teams are doing when they're marketing there?
Yeah. So on the marketing side, our goal was always going after that unserved market, right? That consumer that wasn't being serviced. And so we decided to go after it in a big way in terms of how our silhouettes and our product is shot, the models it's shot on, the entire outfit that we're using in these images to show, because really we're selling a vibe. We're not just selling the Vikings jacket. We're selling the Vikings jacket that comes with this cool distressed tee, and then you have this like cool beanie, and then you have these cargo pants, and you have these Nike Air shoes, right? Like we're selling the vibe of what this is, and it's more than just sports apparel at this point. It's really channeling that lifestyle streetwear fashion approach into the sports market. And we've been able to do that in a really meaningful way. And I think traditionally a lot of sports apparel would just be like a guy or girl standing there and very stoic, or they'd have a big old smile on their face. And it wasn't that wasn't the demographic we were going after. So I made it a point to make sure that what we did felt like fashion through and through. It didn't feel like sports.
So what's kind of do you have a framework for how you measure your digital marketing success? Like, does it differ between your direct to consumer channels versus kind of your retail partners' performance?
Yeah, the retail partners typically handle all of the ad performance and the marketing. So like when we create a collection for Dick's Sporting Goods, they are in charge of the marketing aspect of that. So they will own that marketing play. The ones that we control completely are obviously our e-commerce or direct to consumer. We control all of the assets, the videos. We make sure it feels very Wild Collective. We have a lot of really unique pieces in our collections, and they're so unique to the point that I could do it as a private label and people would still know it's Wild Collective. Like people just know like our aesthetic to this point. So a lot of times you wouldn't even have to look at the tag and know it's Wild Collective. And that's something that honestly we accidentally have done. It's not something that I was like thinking about very strong about in the initial beginnings of the company. I mean, when you're building a startup, you're wearing 15,000 hats. So every day is a new adventure and you're just trying to keep the train on the tracks.
Yeah, I would imagine like it's pretty difficult to build a team that understands sports culture and fashion trends, right? That both of those seem pretty crucial. So what do you look for when you're hiring, and like how have you structured your team?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking for people that think outside the box. I actually get quite a bit of applicants on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's probably one of my stronger platforms in terms of building out the brand. So I get messages from people all across the country, people in different countries. They're fans of the brand. Hey, if there's ever an opportunity, let me know. There's actually a girl in our office right now named Melissa. She reached out to me on LinkedIn and she happened to live in Vegas and we were looking for that particular role that she was interested in. And it all came by way of LinkedIn. I think there's also something to be said about if you're doing something right and you're doing it well and people take notice, the word spreads kind of in the industry. So we are also in a position now where a lot of people are coming to us because, hey, I heard so and so works for you and they love it. You know, they're so there's so much happening with Wild Collective right now. It's so impressive. I'd love to be a part of it. Like, we're not really out seeking people anymore. Um, we're kind of collecting people as the days go on, and they're all coming to us by way of relationships. And that's really where I believe we have a large strength in what we're building here as opposed to what others are doing in the space. Like we've created this environment with the Wild Collective that is seen and heard around the industry. And I pride myself on building that with our team and my husband here, who's the COO. Like it's our goal to create that work environment and be able to have people that want to be here.
How do you how do you learn how to be a better leader?
Well, learning to be a better leader, you learn every day. I think you're never not learning. You're always going to get thrown different scenarios. I think the biggest thing that I'm trying to maintain is being solution based. I think that's one of the biggest advices I could give to anyone um, in regards to like being a leader is showing your team, showing your employees and the partners you work with that you are solution driven. If something happens, you're getting 5 steps ahead of it, figuring out how to fix it, how to handle it, how fast can we do it, what are our options, what makes the most sense, how do we approach it, how do we go to the client, what does that look like, and being able to move quickly. I think that that's something that we are able to do in the industry and not a lot of other companies can do. We're a smaller company. Obviously, as the CEO, I touch everything. So everything that happens in Wild Collective, I touch. And that makes us very nimble and we can run circles around other companies because we can do things at such a faster pace. It allows us to really grow at an extremely fast, chaotic at times, but fast and pace environment.
Yeah, I mean, Cobble Hills, we are small too. And the agency mindset, for when I started the agency in 2013, it wasn't solution based. The agencies that I came from, I worked for some great agencies before, and I had great mentors and great bosses. But other agencies that I had been exposed to, really just not, wasn't solution based, it was more just a kind of a hustle and a grind and, kind of a dog eat dog kind of mentality. And what I've found, over the past 12 years of running the agency is shifting the mindset into that's more, problem solving, solution based, leading by example, just pays dividends. There really is like nothing. And I think you get a lot of experience that running a small agency. Like you said, if you're CEO of a small company, you're able to touch every aspect of it. And I think once you scale and you get to be, 500, 1,000 people, it's a lot harder to have those communication and see how people are responding and leading by example and showing them exactly how you would approach a situation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think, it's just so important to, you know, allow your team to see how you handle certain situations. Like there will be issues with, say, a team or a client or a retailer, and I'll have my team in here. They might not be on camera, but they're in here and they're hearing how I'm dealing with it. How am I solving this problem? How am I responding to that client when they're hitting me with, X, Y, and Z? I think it's really important to, hone in on those skills and teach those skills so that your employees, whether they stay with you forever or whether they stay with you for another year or two, they then have that skill set that they can use at their next role. And I think it's important to, really uphold that as a leader. It's not just this whole company is not just about one person. Yes, I'm the CEO. Yes, it's my company, but it is ran by an entire team. And it's important that that team is all on the same page and that they are learning the right way to do things by the leadership in the company.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think too, it extends a little bit into like the consumer as well. Like you have to build a company, like you said, that people want to come work for, right? And then that plays a a pretty big role in just brand building. And I'm interested in like how you have built and nurtured, a community around the Wild Collective brand. And really like, I'm more interested in like, does user generated content play a role in your marketing strategy? Are people actually like Wild Collective, you know, brand ambassadors, or are they more like, oh, I found this Eagles shirt that I really like?
Yeah, it's interesting. So obviously, building this company, obviously my head's been down a lot of the time because you're in just build mode. And there's it's lost on me sometimes the magnitude of the Wild Collective and where we are. Like we're every stadium across the country. We're in, 6 top retailers. We're in, expanding into Canada, expanding into Mexico. Like we are so many places. We are touching so many things. And it's kind of wild to like think of that in that mindset of how big we really are. But I think what's really cool is we've become so known for these curated pieces that we do that you have literally consumers who have closets full of Wild Collective. Like they start to collect them, like almost like collector's pieces. I was at my daughter's soccer game yesterday, and my husband goes, "Hey, look, that's the Golden Knights varsity jacket." So this lady was coming down to watch her daughter, and she was wearing our Golden Knights varsity. It was a brand new jacket we just came out with. And so I went up to her and I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "I love your jacket." And she's like, "Oh my God, thanks." I was like, "I designed it." And she was like, "Oh my God, you're the Wild Collective." And she like kind of freaked out, was like, "I have all your pieces. I had literally have a closet full." And I hear that all the time. And so, without knowingly building this, we have created this little bit of like a fandom for Wild Collective and these pieces, and fans are, gravitating towards these collections that we do, and they have to have them. They're must have pieces of the season. So that's been really exciting to see play out. So there's a lot of organic there. Like we have a lot of celebrities that wear our product. It's all organic. We're not sending them to a celebrity and saying, "Hey, can you wear this?" Like literally I'll get a message like, "Hey, TI is on a horse wearing your sweater." The rapper TI. Like in what world? Like I'm in a random Tuesday, I'll get a text message that some celebrity's wearing something, or someone's wearing this on this, or even the teams themselves will send us photos. "Oh my God, so and so just put on your jacket," or "So and so just did this." Like they're so hyped on what we're doing and we have such a great relationship with them that they like feel the need to like, "Oh, you got to know who's wearing this." Like, and that's just so cool. Like we definitely built something so unique that everyone is hyped about it. I think on the user generated content, like yes, that's obviously a large role in building out your fan base, for any brand is user generated. We also have a lot of product that people just post, that we're not sending them anything. Like it's not even something we sent them, but they're just so excited about the product that they post it online. They'll do photos of it or do reviews. I see a lot of reviews come in through the website, and people just really love what we're doing, and it's organic. And I think that's why we've been so successful.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you guys have done a really excellent job from like your TikTok content. It blends sports culture and fashion trends like brilliantly. Like what content formats drive like the highest engagement and conversion rates for your
Mm.
social?
Definitely video. I would say video is still one of our strongest ways to build up the engagement. So that's something we're focusing a little more on going into next season. Obviously fall is your biggest season always, in sports. So right now we're in preparation mode for next fall.
Hmm.
And I think there's always a lot of learnings. Like obviously e-com and direct to consumer is very different now. You could start a D2C 10, 12 years ago, and it's vastly different from what it is now. There's a lot more competition. You're fighting for AdWords. It's a lot more expensive to be in the space itself. So there's a lot of factors there. But I think we've always taken the approach on the D2C side that we just have to build it. There's no answer today or tomorrow that is going to all of a sudden we're, doing tens of millions of dollars on our e-com. Like I think it's important to understand that things take time to build. And we're also in a position where, I'm not looking to just throw $50,000 in the air and light it on fire and see what happens. We're very mindful about where we spend our money and how we spend it. And as the company continues to grow, we continue to invest back in the company. And I think that that's just, we're kind of a little more of like the steady Eddie, like let's just like keep leveling up year over year over year. I mean, we're on year 7. And at this point, year 7 is looking to be our strongest year we've ever done. And the future of the brand is looking much bigger than we ever anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, I'm I'm kind of wondering a little bit about, right, like how you approach the creative testing across those different platforms. Like you can it, and more, are you targeting, Philadelphia and running just Eagles ads there?
Yeah, so we've tried a bunch of that in terms of ads and really targeting and being very specific. I will say we've actually had more success not targeting to that very specific city. Actually, when we go a little broader and we cast a bigger net, we're actually finding more success that way.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I would have thought the opposite, to be honest.
And I'm wondering too if the algorithm now is just getting so much more refined that it's able to just kind of make those placements just based on, AI reading what the image is about, seeing who's clicking on it, seeing who's engaged with it, and then finding more like-minded people. But that would have been, as running performance marketing for my first approach would be like, all right, let's target, you know, Philadelphia and run all the Philadelphia sports teams. But yeah, that is totally wild. Do you measure, when you run ads, are you measuring just based on return on ad spend, or are you, more
Yeah,
interested in
right
just
now we're very focused on ROI, so that's really, and like I said, I mean it's an expensive part of our business. Just you have to think about the 3PL, so like our warehouse, all of what that entails cost-wise, plus ad spend, plus we have to pay royalties on all the product we do. So margins are very important. It's important. I mean, we do have higher priced items. So like I will say like our average consumer spends $100 on a piece. Um, but to that point, we're doing very quality product. Like our product is top in class, right? Like our quality levels are far superior than most in the industry. And that's why we are able to get those price points. And I think that's another thing too is, because we're everywhere, you can go in a stadium, feel our product in stadium, that touch and feel, because you can't really get that touch and feel on D2C, right? It's really a in-person situation. And it's almost like from that moment, you kind of have a forever customer because they're like, oh, this is nice. I mean, consumers aren't dumb. Then when they go to in a store and they see a $20 t-shirt, it's a $20 t-shirt for a reason.
Mhm.
And these consumers are smart. They know what they want and they're willing to pay for it.
You have the retail partnerships and people are, purchasing a Wild Collective piece. How are you remarketing to them, right? Like, what is are they looking at the tag and seeing that it's a Wild Collective and then coming to the site and signing up for for email for, their next purchase discount? What's the strategy that you have for that side?
Yeah, we have a hang tag that has a QR code that goes to our website so that consumers, when they're in store, they can, immediately go to our ecom and kind of see what else we have. Because that's the other thing too, is the stadium might only have 3 or 4 pieces out of the Vikings collection at the Viking Stadium, but we might have 7 or 8 more products online that aren't sold in that store. So it allows us to kind of differentiate the product a little bit and make it, a little more engaging for that consumer to then kind of follow us and follow our journey and make it to the website, see all the other things we're doing. Because really, they're just getting a snapshot in Stadium of what we do.
Do you build out kind of your email flows and segment them based on, their team? Are you creating segments based on
So we do have some teams can warrant it. So like a perfect example is like Ohio State. Ohio State is a massive college. They have a massive following. So we can do segmented out just for Ohio State. We can segment out just for the Raiders or 49ers or Lakers. But some of the smaller teams will group them in with more of like a bigger, like this is our NBA drop. And then all of the teams, listed are there. Like for instance, like there's a good example is We just did this really cool curated jacquard sweater for the Grizzlies, the NBA team. And we had never carried Grizzlies on our site before. So this was new for us this season. We put it on site and it sold out in the first like 2 weeks it was up. And again, it just shows you that if you do good products, it does sell. It's all about the product.
Mhm.
And that's a consumer base that, to be honest with you, we really didn't, we did a few products for them in the stadium, but we didn't have an online presence for them. And now that we built it, now we can continue building more product for that consumer on our website and not just having the physical in-store presence.
Mhm. When you think about like scaling, right? But you want to maintain, a benchmark ROAS based on, all the factors that you mentioned, basically adjusting for, what your contribution margin should be for a sale. Uh how are you forecasting that or budgeting out your ad spend each month? Are you saying, okay, if we're achieving a certain ROAS, let's continue to fuel the fire? Or are you kind of predetermining your ad spend levels for the entire quarter and then sticking to that?
No, we don't predetermine. We kind of like put the ads up, see what they do. The ones that do well, we increase budget. The ones that aren't doing great, we pull off. We're always in a constant moving ads around, seeing what's working, seeing what's not. Because you got to remember, even in sports, like the Vikings are trending right now because they're winning.
Mhm.
The minute they stop winning, people aren't buying product as much. So you kind of have to look at it as you know, what's happening this week, who's doing well this week, like it's honestly like a week by week situation in some cases. You do have certain teams that will always sell. Like Green Bay Packers have a phenomenal fan base. They will buy Green Bay Packers rain or shine, win or lose. But not every team is like that. There's a lot of fair weather teams out there where when they're hot, and when they're not, they are not.
That's like a dream job though for like a performance marketer who's like has a sports, who loves watching Sports Center and everything. Like I feel like they would be perfect for running ads in that capacity.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to maintain and keep up with.
Yeah, there's a lot of psychology involved in that, I would imagine, too, just kind of determining, all right, this team isn't doing great. Let's pull this ad down, or it's, whatever it is. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm wondering too, like for that, what's your process for like testing new product concepts and how do you kind of balance creativity with commercial viability?
Well, I think at this point, I mean, being 7 years in, we have a pretty strong pulse on what we can get away with and what we can't. I mean, don't be wrong. There's some silhouettes that I would love to do, but I know better. I know that the consumer base for that particular item might be a little smaller. But with that said, we just take learnings from our previous collections we've done. We take a silhouette or a material or a style of jacket. And if it did really well, we figure out how to reinvent it, how to do it in a new, unique way. And that's really how we build out our future collections, is going off the success of our others.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, too, like as you think about expanding into, new college teams and stuff, are those licenses more difficult to get?
College is a beast. Every single college requires a different agreement. So, whereas when you get the NFL license, you get all NFL teams except for the Cowboys. The Cowboys have to opt in because they run their own licensing program. So, college is a lot. It's a lot. And there's a reason why we've kind of dabbled in it, but haven't gone fully invested in college, is because it requires a lot of manpower. You need a quite large team to be able to handle college. We are building out college programs as we speak. So that is something that is going to be happening specifically with a bunch of retailers into next year. So it's definitely a focus of ours. But we've been holding back the last few years until we felt like we were ready to take it on, because the major league sport stuff is way easier. You get one league, here's all the teams you get, this is who you can sell to, go. But with every college is different.
How often do you have to renegotiate those licensing agreements with the sports with the professional teams?
Yeah, they're about every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. And are you always kind of on the edge of your seat when that comes up?
No,
No, it feels
no, no. I know what we're doing in the space. I know what we bring to the space. I feel very proud of what we're doing. We get a lot of great feedback. I think they're looking to not renew someone who's not hitting their guarantees, who maybe is causing drama or not able to, isn't following the rules. There's a lot of reasons why they might not renew you, but we've always placed our brand in situations where, you know, it would be dumb not to renew us. Based on the success we're having and honestly the growth that we're bringing to the leagues. I think that's a big part of what we do is, we've brought some of these leagues into uh areas that they weren't even in. Like Free People was never selling sports until we started working with them on building out product collections. So that's an entirely new market for them. Anthropology is a new market for them. So it's a lot of growth and scalability that we bring to the table.
what, as kind of more brands enter the space, how are you kind of thinking about maintaining your, what I would call like your first mover advantage, right? Like how are you capitalizing on the growth that you have, and where does the company go from here?
So my main focus has always been, and it always will be, being 5 steps ahead of everyone else, because we are in an industry where there's a lot of copycats. I'll do a silhouette, and then 6 months later, I see another brand doing it, trying to mimic it, trying to copy it. Now, you do have a lot of protection from the leagues, and they will protect you on a lot of different, areas. But there's some that it's hard to say whether that was like specifically Wild Collective or not. And so, there are things that still get made that are quite similar to what we do. But I always look at every season as a completely fresh landscape in design. And I always make sure we do is differently done than what we've done previous. And that's worked really well for us. And I think the future of the brand is really growing out these retailer programs. There's one specifically that I'm working on that, knock on wood, it comes to fruition. But it's one I've been manifesting on for years. It would be the largest opportunity we've ever had. And if it comes to fruition and ends up happening, that's a clear example of manifesting your dreams and manifesting what you want. This was no luck. This wasn't by luck that this opportunity came in front of us, and I'm just really excited to see it through and see what happens. But there's a lot of very big future retail opportunities that we're really looking to do in a large way, and that includes expanding product globally as well.
Where do you look for inspiration, or where do you get inspiration from, Whitney? Like outside of the industry that you're in, or even outside of fashion?
I love the surf skate culture. I think they're doing a lot of cool stuff just with graphics and so forth. So I hone in on that industry a lot. I'm always looking to see what they're doing. I love luxury fashion. I love that Pharrell is at Louis Vuitton. I love watching what he's doing over there and coming up with new cool concepts, like, taking ideas from some of these fashion houses and how could I translate that into Sephora's? How could I translate that into a jacket? And really just looking for different materials and applications that others aren't doing in the space. Like, oh, maybe they're doing it in the luxury world, but no one's done it in sports. So I find a lot of excitement in that.
Cool. Yeah, I'm a surfer. I draw a lot of my inspiration from the surf industry as well.
Yeah.
It's creative,
Yeah.
it's artistic, it's fun.
Yeah.
Whitney, it's been awesome having you on the Marketing Factor. Where can people find out more about the Wild Collective or you?
So I would say the best way to find more info and follow me is on LinkedIn. I'm definitely the most active on LinkedIn. It's my favorite platform. I just love business. I love everything that has to do with business. So LinkedIn is probably the best way to do that. And then our Instagram and our Facebook page for We Are the Wild Co. are probably great ways to follow the brand. And then our website is wearethewildco.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Whitney. It's great having you on.
Thanks so much.